No matter how screwed you are, you can always call messagebox function on Windows and you will see this little fella, a message box, a dialog that tells you that something is wrong or something requires your attention. And you don't have to reopen your application in a terminal to see standard error like some stinking nerd. On Linux, this is not an option. The desktop ecosystem is very fragmented. People have all sorts of toolkit installed and there is no single API to provide you with this functionality. So what Linux people usually do is they use application Zenity. Yeah, there you go. So this one. And if you call it with help, you can see that one of the things it provides is, yeah, error. And so if you call it as Zenity dash error, you screw up, it will try to be smart. So internally Zenity will try to detect what kind of toolkits you installed, what is available, and then it kind of just calls whatever you have installed on your computer. And a lot of applications either require Zenity to be installed to see any sort of visual feedback, or they try to bundle their own version of Zenity that they can call out to through subprocess or something like that. However, there is a way to implement a sort of the least common denominator message box that will work on 99.99999% of computers. And the only reason I'm not saying 100% is because, you know, this is Linux. The least common denominator, of course, being X11, which is installed on literally all Linux desktop computers, even those that run Wayland, because there are still a lot of applications that are imported to Wayland and video games and stuff like that. So yes, with that said, let's include a libx11, which is usually namespaced under x11 and xlib.h. And yeah, let's just start. Pretty much all X11 applications start with getting the handle to a display, which is in libx11 display. I'll just call it the xopen display. And you can pass it null. It takes, so if you go to the definition of the function, it takes character star the display name, which if you give it null, it will just take whatever the default one, but it's usually something like colon and then a number. After that, you will be calling x create window. On X11, pretty much everything you can interact with is some kind of window. So we will be creating a window for the main message box and then for a button that is displayed on the message box. And x create window, so let me call its manual. It accepts a bunch of parameters. So let me just kind of just literally copy paste them here and see what we can pass. So first one is of course display. Oh, and by the way, in this video I'm not really gonna be handling any errors, just to keep the code slightly less verbose. X11 protocol is client server, so pretty much any call you do can error out and you should be aware of it. And actually, let me just copy everything I need from the header. I think that's gonna be cleaner. Yeah, there you go. And yeah, let's just fill it in. So first is the pointer to the display. Second is a parent window, which is root. Then XY is coordinates of the window. After that, we have width and height. So width, that's gonna be 30. Let's height gonna be 300 and 100. Then border width, I guess 1. After that, depth, class, and visual we can substitute with the thing known copy from parent and just do it 3 times. It's a special macro that just tells the X11 server to do whatever parent has. After that, we have a value mask and attributes. So what we need in our case? In our case, we want to set a background for a window. We want to like set a border pixel and also provide an event mask. And I have them prepared on my other monitor, so I'll just copy paste them here. So this is how they look like. And yeah, it's also just some kind of defines that are defined by the protocol that you can set on the window. It's nothing really special. The event mask is kind of interesting because it will tell X11 server which capabilities our window wants. And the way we define it is by setting xset window attributes. So before creating our window, we need to create a variable of this type, and let's call it just adders. And so these adders, if we go to the declaration, it has a bunch of stuff defined. We don't need to fill everything. So we need to fill event mask. So adders dot event mask, and we will demand that our window is listening to exposure events. So exposure events is, you know, oh, hey, show yourself. That's basically what it is. And also key press mask. I guess the name is self-evident here. Also, we will need to set a border pixel, right? So this thing, and border pixel, we will just use a predefined value, which is black pixel, which is actually like a macro, and we provide the display and the screen. And if you go to the definition, again, it's just some macro that gets the some predefined value on a screen of display. It's just some, it gets it from some internal state of libx11. And also we need a background pixel. And I guess let's do it white. We will have a light themed message box. So it also accepts display and a screen. That's right. After this is done, we pass these adders here, and it demands an address, and that should be it. And of course, we need to get the window that it returns. So it's window, what do we call it? Let's call it message box. Yes. Again, not handling any errors, just assuming it all works. After that, we can set a title for our window. For this, we call X store name, I believe. Yeah, this is it. So again, display, window, and then a name that we need. So a D, oh, I just realized I screwed this up. So, yep. And box. You can imagine that if you encapsulate this into a function, this could be supplied as a parameter. Yes. And let's actually compile and run it and see if it works. But before we do, we need to call X map window. This basically shows, you know, our window to display itself. Yes. So yeah, let's try to compile and see if it works. So gcc main.c, and we'll call it just msg. Oh yeah, dash o msg. And what do we have here? Exposure. This has to be exposure mask. Then semicolons. Oh yes, semicolons. What else? Let me recompile it. Oh yeah, need to, of course, save the file. Invalid to prevent to binary what? All right, because this should be a comma and expression bef too many. What? Did I not? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh yeah. C programming language, everyone. It doesn't support trailing commas. Yeah. You want quality of life, you won't get them here. Why do I even use C to show this example? I don't know. Anyway, so yes, and we of course need to link to X11, and now we compile. So can I run it? Yes, I can, but it shows nothing. Actually, it didn't even flash the window, and I know why. It's because in order to show an actual window, we need to handle at least one expose event for this window. So yeah, just get some storage for the event, which is X event, and then create some kind of a done flag, and then while not done, we enter an infinite loop where we're going to call X next event, and we pass it a display and a pointer, an address of event. Yes. And there are many different ways to get events from X11Q. X next event is not the best one for like quote unquote production applications, but it's perfectly fine for our purpose here. Yes, so after that we need to check. So I guess we just switch on an event type, and yes, X event is actually an union of a bunch of different events. Yes, so, and we will gonna be checking the type, which is, so, can you say that this is a tagged union? I'm really curious. Let me know if you think this counts as a tagged union or not. But yeah, anyway. So yes, let me switch on this, and we care about expose. Yes, and if this is expose, for now let's just break. I think X server will be totally satisfied as long as we just get the event from the queue. Yes, so let me compile it again and run, and oh, there you have it. Look at this. We have our window, and if you noticed, it tried to open it in full screen because I'm using Thailand Window Manager, and even though we gave it dimensions, it got totally ignored. And we can change that. So the way you do it, so Thailand Window Managers respect it, you need to tell X11 server that the window you're about to create is a special utility or a dialog window. And in order to do it, it's actually pretty annoying. You need to intern what's called an atom, and you need to do it before you, actually it doesn't really matter. Before you show the window, you can intern these atoms. Actually, let's do it after setting a title somewhere here. Atoms shenanigans. I'm gonna write a comment here because it's gonna be pretty wordy. So the call is called intern atom, so it's of type atom, and I'm gonna call it WM, so for window manager, and the function is X intern atom, and X intern atom expects the atom name and whether created or whether created only if it exists or not. And so we pass display, and the atom is called, I actually have a link here, which is, yes, so the protocol is called ICCCM, so something extended window manager hints, and the hint itself is called window type, yeah, this one. And this is an entire protocol from Free Desktop, and it kind of lets you hint a window manager what this window is about, you know, what icon it wants to have and stuff like that, and most window managers just kind of respect it. But under the hood is just a bunch of, you know, it's just a bunch of string funneling, and atoms themselves are just a number. So if I go to definition of atom, is just an unsigned long, and by the way, so capital false is just defined for 0, and capital true is defined for 1. So just we're on the same page. After you get this particular atom, you need to intern another atom, and I'm gonna call it util, and it's also x intern atom and accepts D, and the atom name is utility. Net WM window type utility indicates a small persistent utility window. Yes, exactly. So we're gonna be using this, and also create if it doesn't exist. It's actually on all modern desktop environments, it will always exist. This is just something I guess you do. And after that, you need to use this atom to change the window property. Yes, so x change window property. This is what you use, and again, you pass it displayed. You pass it the window, so message box. You pass it, let me actually check. Actually, never mind, it's change just property. Yeah, now I can see its definition, and it needs a property and then type and a format and a mode. So let me actually just copy all of that. And yeah, just paste it. So elements is actually always 1. Data itself is the pointer to an atom utility. And I guess we need to cast it because the atom itself is unsigned long. So yeah, let's just cast it to unsigned character. So mode is one of like replace or whatever. It's called prop mode replace. Yeah, so if we go here, there are property modes. One of them is replace, prepend, or append. Yeah, we're using replace. Prepend and append are for properties that are kind of like arrays. Format is 32. Guess why? Type is XA atom. I guess this is something you can look up in the protocol, but this is basically, we tell it that the type of the atom is 32-bit integer. Yes, so yes. The property itself is WM, so window type. After that, window itself is message box, and display is D. And let me properly like format it. And I think this should actually do the trick. So let me compile. What do we have here expected? Yeah, we need a bunch of colons. And XA atom undeclared. It isn't declared because we need another header. So I think it's xutil.h, if I recall correctly. Is it not? Or is it x atom? Oh yeah, it is x atom, yes. After that, we need to fix utility declared. Yes, it has to be util. Actually, you know what? Let's call it utility. And now if I call MSG, look at this. Now we have a small little empty window that I can actually even close. And look at that. When I close the window, we get like an incorrect shutdown of our connection to the display server. This is because I closed the window, but I never kind of handle anything. So it becomes really unhappy with what I do. So let's make it happy, and we need to handle key press here, and we need to get a key symbol. So I'll just call it key, and it's actually of type key sim. Key equals to x lookup key. No, this is just a call, and the one I'm looking for is non-capitalized, and we pass it display. We pass it an address to event dot, I think it is x key. So let me check that. It should be right here. Yeah, there you go, x key. And does it take anything else? Index. Index, I believe, should be 0. Yes. So we get an actual key, and then we just check if key is one of xk, so x11 key, right? return or xk key equals xk escape. But be really careful to not do this, because this is valid C and you will have a big trouble of debugging it if you accidentally make a mistake here. So we just set down to 1, and this should handle everything for us. So let's compile again, and what do we have? X lookup key sim. What do we have? Pass an argument from an incompatible type. Why? Oh, right, because it doesn't take a display actually for once. Yes, and MSG. Now if I press escape, you can see, or enter, you can see it just exits the application cleanly with the correct exit code. Actually, speaking of correct exit code, let's do return 0 here. Let's be a good boy, right? And now comes the fun part. We have our message box, but it's completely empty. So how do we display something in it? And the funny part is that X11 actually has an ability to draw strings that are completely independent on, your free type or your OpenGL or whatever it is. So as long as you have a working X11 connection, and assuming X11 server itself is not completely cooked, you can just type stuff here, which is, I would say, pretty handy in this situation. And the way you do it is by calling something that is called X drawString. So let's put it here, X drawString. Yes, and let's look it up. This is what it takes to draw a string. As you can see, it's pretty simple. So X11 does all of the, it determines how to get the font, how to draw all of the glyphs, how to space them out. It does all it for us. All we need to do is pass them some parameters. So these are display, and drawable in GC is something new. We will talk about it in a moment. And XY is coordinates where to put them. So let's call them like 10 and 50. So somewhere at the beginning of our window. And this is our string. So let's call it, I don't know, like message, and maybe let's call character star, like message equals, you are screwed, something like this. And then length is gonna be str_len of message. And again, don't forget that we are doing it with C. Yes, we can't have trailing commas. So yeah, drawable and GC. Drawable is basically a window in X11 terms. So we can just pass a window directly here because we draw on a window, right? So message box. And GC is short for graphics context, I believe. And we need to get this graphics context from our window. So maybe let's create it after, after we map the window, and it's called like GC. So message box GC equals to X create GC, and display window something we actually don't really care about. So we just pass message box, and we just pass 0, and the second one is a pointer to something. Let's call it null. Yes, and I don't remember if I showed it. I think I did. Window that we return from xCreate window is just some integer, so it's kind of like an ID to something opaque we don't know about. So it's just kind of passing integers around. It's very similar to handle on Winter 2. But I digress. We have a, I wanted to say garbage collector, but no, it's a graphical context. So let's put it here, and I think this should just work. Let me compile it. strlen. All right, we need to include string.h. That makes sense. String.h, and does it work now? Hey, look at this. It's actually super small, so if you squint really hard, you can see that there is actually you are screwed right here. It is so small because I have a high DPI monitor, and native X11 fonts are actually all fixed size. They are bitmap fonts, so you can't just scale them easily. But let's be honest, all modern X11 installations are shipped with a library called libxft that lets you just natively render a normal true type fonts, and it is using xrender extension, and yeah, you can pretty safely use it. I think pretty much all installations have it installed by default. So yeah, let's do that. Oh, and by the way, I just realized that we still have this X connection to blah 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 broken. When I press enter or escape, it exits cleanly, but if I actually close my window with a shortcut, I get this error. And this is because I don't handle close event. And actually X11 doesn't even have window close event, because X11 is old and bad, and the way you close window is really kind of scuffed. You actually have to just do it through atoms the same way. So let me do it real quick. Closing windows on X11 is an unsolved problem in computer science. Yeah, so let's just do it while we are here. You need two protocols. One of them is WM protocols, and another one is called something close window. So I have it here, and net close window, this is a message. Yeah, WM delete window, this is the one. So yeah, and so let's call it protocols and delete window. And the way you also need to set this atom with a special call, which is something like x set this one, set WM protocols, and it accepts window, pointer to atoms, and the count. Yeah, so this is gonna be D message box, and so I pointer to delete window, and then 1. Right, so do we still compile? Yeah, we still compile. And now you see, now when I press a key code for closing the window doesn't actually gets closed, because now it sends us a special client message that we simply don't handle. So yeah, let's do that. The way you do that is you have another case, and this one is client message, I believe so. Yeah, it is a client message. And let's open a scope, and then we check if event it's, I think it's something on there should be x client, I think, client message, yeah, class client message event. So this is gonna be X client, and then we are looking for blah 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 format. Yeah, this is the one, and I believe the atom is stored in L. Yeah, so event X client, then L, and I guess it's gonna be L0 equals to our atom that is delete window. So if the client message is this one, we set down to 1 and break. Yeah, so let's compile it. No named, what? Oh, it's data L. Yeah, data.l. And now if I press combination key, yeah, there you go. Now we exit cleanly. Nice. So back to the true type rendering. So yeah, let's start by including the header, and xft is namespaced like that, xft.h, right? Yeah, it works. And then right after we, I guess, mapped our window, let's so the way you work with the library, by the way, I have like an, is this the one? Yes, xft. I have a kind of a documentation opened. It's more of a tutorial, but yeah, the way you start is you open the font. So you pass this and it will return you xft font, I believe. Oops. Sorry. Yes, xft font, open name, and let's call it like message font. Yes, there you go. So screen and char name, and so it accepts display screen, which is in our case root. Yes, screen root. Yeah, we have root, and after that a name of the font. So this is a regular TTF font name. I'm gonna use hack just because I like it, like hack regular, and we can provide like size equals something. Let's do it 14, and maybe let's do it in a bold. If you write a generic kind of message box, this should probably be something like monospace, or like a generic font name that kind of just falls back to default. But I'm gonna use hack because why not? It's fun. Not handling any errors. Yeah, so after xft font open name, we need to initialize a color, which is going to be let's call it black. Yes, and we need to allocate it color alloc name. We need to pass it d, and then so if you open, it needs a visual, it needs a color map, and then it needs like a name and a result, right? So it's gonna have some kind of visual, color map, and then black, and then our black and address of. And so where do we get this visual and color map? We are getting them by, well, simply using default ones. So let's maybe define them at the very top where we get all of the default screens. So it's gonna be a visual, it's gonna be a default visual of the display and screen. Then we need a color map, which is color map, and I believe color map is not a pointer, so default color map. Yeah, default color map. Yeah, default visual like this. And then when we're using them, and yeah, display color map name. Yeah, nice. So yeah, pointer, cool, seems good. Also, this should be a screen, not a root. So root is a parent window, and screen is kind of like the entire, it's kind of like a logical monitor. Yeah, we call xft color alloc name. Let me look at the documentation. I mean, at the at the tutorial. Yeah, now we call something that's called xft draw create. Again, d. So it accepts drawable, visual, and color map. So drawable is our window. So message box, visual, and color map. And this time, actually, it accepts a pointer to visual, yeah, which we initialized. Yeah, nice. So we are all correct here. Draw create, and it returns xft draw. So message box draw. Nice. This should work. And here when we are drawing, we need to replace xft drawString with a different call that is xft draw xft draw string 32 UTF-8. Yeah, this is the one. So we need to use this one. So let me replace all of that. Whoops. And what it accepts here. So first it accepts a pointer to draw, which we called message box draw. And yeah, just so we know, this is a pointer. Next, it accepts a color, which in our case is black. Then it accepts a font, which in our case is message font, which by the way is also a pointer that I totally screwed up. Yeah, font. XY is, you guessed it, coordinates. It was 10 and 50. And then string and a length. So yeah, I called it just a message, right? Where was it? Yeah, I call it the message. So message and strlen. And assuming I didn't screw anything up significantly, ft to build.h, no such file. Oh yeah, this is actually kind of a caveat. So if you look at the documentation, actually I moved it back, so let me show it to you. It specifically requires you to pass free type includes directly, because this header in the xft.h header, it includes it like this, like as if it were a global system header. Why? I have honestly no idea. X11 for you. But if you pass the include path kind of directly, now, well, what is screen? It should be screen. Yeah, nice. And now all you need to do is lxft. Just link it, and if you call msg, there you go. You have a properly rendered true type. Very nice. So now we have our message box. We have our, well, message. And I guess let's add an OK button that you can click with the mouse, you know, like on a proper message box. As I said before, everything you draw in X11 is window, kind of similar like in Win32. So what we can do, we literally just copy a create window call and call it a button, and just let's make it smaller. So this is gonna be X, so maybe like 125, I guess, and something like, you know, like, I don't know, it's about 50, so maybe like 75, and then like 50 by, don't want to make it like by 20. Depth is the same, copy from parents are the same, and these are the same. I guess just let's call it button utters. Button utters that we need to also create. So let me copy that. Button utters. Yeah, and it's gotta be, so exposure, key press. It still needs exposure, yes. It still needs black pixel, white pixel. Yeah, so same attributes, I guess. Yeah, the same attributes for button is fine. We create the button, and then we don't really need any protocols on it. Let me close this. But we still need to map the window. Where do we map? Yeah, we map our message box and we map our button. Nice. And we also need to create a drawable. Actually, yeah, we don't need graphical context when we use XFT. That's actually pretty neat. So let's delete that. But what we need to have is, we need to have this thing but repeated for the button. So this is gonna be button font, and to distinguish, let's not do it bold, let's make it regular and maybe size 12. So it doesn't really need a separate color. We can just totally reuse the same color. And so we get the font, and we need to create a separate like draw for it. So let's copy it here, and this is gonna be called button draw, and a window is gonna be button, and I think everything else should be the same. And assuming I got this all correctly, we can just sort of, oh yeah, so a good point here. So before that, we just kind of handled global events without checking that we are the target window of events, and you have to do that because of how X11 works. You know, X11 is super insecure by default. By default, any application can listen for events for any other X11 applications. And besides security implication, you really just want to listen only to your events, otherwise you get spammed, right? Two ways you do it is by checking a window on an event. X event has X any, and this X any event, it actually has a window on it. This is how you distinguish a window. So here we get the event, and before we switch, we need to do like an if else. So if event x any window is message box, then we do all of this. Yes, so let me kind of properly indent it. So else if event x any window equals to button, then we do the same switch on event type. Woo. But in this case we do so case, we need to handle expose, of course. We need to handle expose, and assuming the button font exists. And yeah, by the way, again, to reiterate, this can fail. You should check if button font exists, but yeah, we do the same thing we did here. Just let me completely copy draw UTF-8 string. Whoops. Put it here, and this is gonna be button draw and button font, and 10. So where did I put the button window? So 75. It's 50 by 20. So I guess 10 or maybe 15 here. Yeah, and let's just maybe okay. Maybe let's just pass it okay. And strlen2. Let's see if it even works. Oh, yeah, by the way, it got rendered as a separate window for the simple reason that when you create a window, when you create a window, the parent should not be root, the parent should be our message box. Yes, this is kind of very important when you need, and now you can see we have like our proper window here, but when it gets clicked, nothing happens. So let's handle that. So let's go back here. We just need another case here, and here we handled key press, but to get a mouse button, we need a button press, completely different, right? And it's just down equals 1 and break. I guess that's it. So let's recompile. And so here I'm clicking, and as soon as I click OK, that was very anticlimactic. Let's figure out what didn't work. What didn't work? I might have forgotten the mask. So here I had like key press mask, and I'm not gonna be surprised. Yes, so Handling keyboard and handling mouse is different in X11, and I totally forgot to add the button press mask. So our child window completely ignores any mouse button. So let's try it for the last time, and boom, yeah, now it works. So yeah, there you have it. We have our message box. And let's actually check, let's actually check LDD on it. So it does link against a bunch of stuff. So notable ones are font config and free type, which you can reasonably expect to be installed anywhere. Also, the PNG is also something that's installed everywhere. And Xrender is the extension that the XFT uses. I should have probably showed it, but before we used XFT, before we relied on just X drawstrings on those kind of scuffed small bitmap fonts, the only thing that would have gotten linked was just core X11 libraries. So if you want like super bare bones message box, you just need to, you can just use X drawstrings. Maybe there's a way to bundle like bitmap font together with you. I actually haven't checked that, so this might be an exercise for the reader if you want. Another exercise for the reader is to get this functionality and extract it into a function and let it, accept a title, maybe like a button title, maybe like a message, maybe, you can use pixmaps to draw like exclamation marks and stuff. But overall, it's pretty small. It's just 140 lines of code. There will be some error handling ideally, but this is something you can totally, how with your applications as a super fallback that you can show a user when something goes wrong, so they don't have to restart your app in a terminal like some stinky nerds. But let's be honest, in reality, just bundle Zenity and use its functionality. Unless you really hate third-party dependencies and you would prefer to have something like this yourself, which is an option. And again, I'm not super knowledgeable in Wayland, so maybe there is a way to have something like that easily in Wayland. I would really like to see an examples. I honestly didn't research, but as I said, X11 is installed everywhere still, so feel free to use it. I'm gonna be putting all of the important links in the description, and I'm gonna put this snippet to my gist and also put it in the descriptions. And thank you for watching. I guess subscribe if you want more programming videos like this. Bye bye.